So for those of you who have been joining us, just like Phil said, for all the great content JNF has been putting on, thank you for all your support. JNF has been putting together online events for over 2 months now, and I feel like we've really gotten to know each other. To those who are joining us tonight for the very first time, welcome. Welcome to the JNF online community. We're excited to have you with us. My name is Karen Aflalo, and I'm the president of JNF Montreal. I'd like to start off by thanking each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Tonight is sure to be a great evening filled with fun, smiles, and of course, some tasty treats. Before we get started, I'd like to officially introduce to you our MC for tonight. He's our program director, all the way from Montreal, Phil Frey.
Thank you, Karen.
And of course, the reason you are all here tonight, backed by popular demand, a man who needs little to no introduction. You've seen him on the Food Network, and tonight he's coming to you live from his New York home kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Ben Israel. Before we start, I just want to say Ron has graciously donated his time, not only once, but twice, as he returns tonight for a second event with JNF, and we cannot thank him enough. Ron, you are incredible, and on behalf of the entire JNF Canada community, thank you for helping us cope through the art of baking during these difficult times. JNF Canada, let's have a fun night, stay safe during these difficult times, and Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach to everyone. Thanks for having me under those terrible production values. This weekend, I was supposed to be in Toronto for 2 weeks, shooting a new season of the Canadian Big Bake for Food Network Canada. And we had big plans for a whole week of Halloween-themed shows. So that has been postponed, and I hope I'll be able to arrive to Canada before October to shoot the show. Everybody is lined up, the contestants and the prizes and the judges. I'm still here. And I have to apologize, this is not TV. First of all, it's live, no editing, no background music, even though Phil promised me some nice Israeli disco. And also we have a very cruel lighting. This is my home kitchen. I love it, I love working here, but it's not designed for TV shoots. I'm gonna show you a little bonus. I love to bake on Sundays. So I make my daily bread and I make variations. This bread I made from memory. It's a black olive bread with whole wheat and olive oil, and it's inspired by the Bedouin, the Arabs of the deserts. And it turned out pretty well, if I may say. So I'm gonna put it aside.
Yummy.
You can send some to Montreal, Ron. I'll take it.
But you know, we have to be honest. I'm going to go now to the oven and pull out the ready-made souffle. 1 more minute. I don't know why I wanted to do dairy for Shavuot, because that's traditional. And I wanted to do something with fromage blanc, or the low-fat white cheese that I grew up on in Israel. And I know you have markets, you can get it. You can also use for this recipe ricotta or cottage cheese or imported low-fat cheese from Israel. Smooth white cheese, it's delicious. It's based, of course, on European cheese. But the worst thing one could plan for a live, unedited presentation is to do souffle. Souffle is the crown of desserts. Hot souffle goes up like Moses into the mount, and if he gets upset with the Israelites, it deflates in a second. I'm not gonna break my commandments, but it's very risky. I already made one experiment calmly, and Phil is going to show us the experiment, and it was perfect. Could you show it on your desktop?
Yes, sir. Let's get it up right here. Bear with me. Technology takes a couple of seconds. There you go, Ron.
I don't see it.
We don't see it, Phil.
You don't see it?
Nope.
Hold on. Having a little technical issue here.
So I'll keep on talking. So in order to prepare, I made the recipe and some adjustment once, calmly by myself at home, and it worked perfectly. I sent a picture to Phil and I said, we are on. Now I needed to time my souffle because it takes about 20 to 25 minutes.
Here we go.
So this was, and especially the third from the top was my favorite. It had a little swirl to it. And I recommend to bake a minute or two more to get the hum. So now we have what I pulled out of the oven, which I started 25 minutes ago. So give me back the screen. And I just pulled it out of the oven.
Ron, I wanted to take this second just to remind everybody here that if you have any questions for Ron, any whatsoever about tonight's recipe, other recipes, Food Network, his career, about the weather in New York, don't be shy. Type in all your questions into the chat, and we're going to try to get to as many as possible tonight. So once again, you have any questions whatsoever for Ron, type them into the chat, and I will repeat them out to Ron, and hopefully we get to all of them.
So this is a finished product. It's a little deflated because it stayed in the oven for about 7 minutes too long. So here's the deal with soufflés, and I'm going to keep on working and adjusting the screen. The souffle rises up because it's all about egg whites and will immediately start deflating. So but it's very dramatic and beautiful. So the trick to do it, now you can see the inside of my kitchen cabinets, and obviously you can see it. The soufflés are baked in a bain-marie, or as I jokingly told Phil and Karen and Galit, a bain Miriam. So it's a water bath that cooks the souffle without, it tempers the heat. So we can't touch the ramekins because they're too hot. I use tongs into the plate and directly to the table. And let me just add a little powdered sugar. So here's what I would suggest to do. We're starting from the end. I'm showing you the results and they're ready to be served. And when I dip the spoon inside, it's all like a mousse, but baked. And very cheesy, soft, tasting on vanilla and lemon zest. Incredible.
I'm jealous.
So, oh, you know what? It's really good. And it's very My one mistake is I should have taken the ramekins out. Let me do it again. Take the ramekin out. Let me bring it closer to the screen. Put it on the counter. Sprinkle the sugar on top. And only then transfer it to a plate. So the sugar will not go on the plate. Can we ask for feedback to know if it makes sense to everyone?
Well, right now we got our first question coming in from Sophia. Sophia, first of all, thanks us and thanks you for doing this demonstration tonight, and was actually wondering if she can do this recipe in a baking dish instead of ramekins.
Yes and no. Technically, it could work, Sophia. But the beauty of the soufflés is that you serve them in individual ramekin and each guest get one. You could make a lot, this recipe is for 6 miniature. You can double it up, you can put it in a larger baking dish, but it will lose some of the je ne sais quoi of the individual ones. It's up to you. Let me put the bain-marie aside, or bain Miriam.
For those who just joined, Ron's actually starting from the end of the recipe and is going to make his way to the beginning. So you're not seeing the final product because we're done. We're just getting started. Don't worry. Ron's going to show you how to make these delicious mini cheese soufflés.
So if we were not in a pandemic and I had a whole crew of food producers and camera and everybody, then we would make few versions on the side, and I will go through the steps, and then miraculously I'll open the oven door and it will be. You could do it with a cake, but the soufflés start rising the moment they hit the oven and then start deflating. So I'm showing you the end results, even though they're staying pretty good. You know, I'm looking at this, but really it started about an inch above the top and it's already deflated. Still delicious. It's like soufflé is like baked air. So what's the trick? You can measure all the ingredients, which we're going to go through, prepare everything to go, sit for dinner, and then after the main course is being cleared, skit over to the kitchen, finish it up, put it in the oven for 20 more minutes, have some coffee, wine, and then it will come out. But soufflés are so complicated because of the timing, not because of the ingredients. When you go to a restaurant, you need to order the soufflé when you sit down because the kitchen has to time it all. Does that make sense, guys? I can't see your face. So I need to know. Well, iPad Beth is nodding. Let me look at the rest of the, I wanted to say.
Marilyn is, she's nodding her head.
Marilyn is nodding. Jeffrey Sarfin, who is not obviously Jeffrey.
Ron, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's great.
Norman, we have Norman Stern.
It makes sense.
Okay, if it makes sense, I'm going to continue. So let's measure the ingredients. Let me tell you a story first. You know how you are told to separate the egg whites from the egg yolks one by one in every cookbook, in every instructional video, in every show. And of course, that's the way I learned from my mother and I always obeyed. But I was in Canada in one of my first big food festivals with a famous chef who I'm not going to name. And we had to separate 150 eggs very quickly. And she said, you know what, we can't afford to do one by one. We're just going to separate and put it in the big bowl. We did about 125 eggs, and then a thread of yolk fell into the whites. We pulled it out. We were sure everything is going to work. And then we whipped the egg whites to a meringue, and it never came through. 150 eggs. We had to throw the whole thing out and start over. So I learned my lesson the hard way. Luckily, my name was not on the product. So we're going to go over that. Let me set up the screen so you can see me, and I'll ask. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn the oven on to 350 degrees and collect my baking tools and my ingredients. Here are the ramekins that are prepared for the baking. Meanwhile, I'm going to step over to the microwave. I have a little butter. This is for all the ramekins. It's just a small amount. And melt the butter in the microwave. I'm not crazy about doing dishes, and obviously I have nobody to help me here. So the smallest amount of dishes, the better. So rather than melt the butter in a little pot, I put it in one of the ramekins, melt it, and then I saved the whole dish. So these are individual ramekins that have melted butter, and then I sprinkled sugar. Even though Shavuot is not the holiday of asking questions, this is more like Passover, one may ask, why do you need to grease the ramekin and put powdered sugar? Here's the melted butter, which I use for all the ramekins. Why do I need to grease the ramekins if you eat straight from the dish? You don't have to unmold it like a cake. How about, can anybody guess the answer?
Ron, while we wait for people to try to guess, Ariel would like to know if you can use Pam instead of butter to grease the ramekin.
Absolutely. I love using Pam for most cakes and bread, but there's nothing like the taste of butter. So, and they have, but it's a very good small coating. For traditional yeast cakes and for traditional coffee cakes, I prefer to use butter for the flavor, and it's also traditional. Then there's another addition, which is sugar. So I sprinkle a little sugar into the container. And here's If nobody knows the answer, I'll tell you, but I would really love to hear from you.
Okay, I might have an answer.
Oh, we have an answer.
Okay, what
Robin,
about,
tell us.
you can hear me now, right?
We can hear you, Robin.
Okay, I'm thinking that the reason why you wanted to pull off the sides and not stick to the ramekin, and it would probably help with the height of the souffle. That's my guess.
Yes and no, it's actually the opposite.
Oh.
As you can see, I sprinkle the sugar and then I tap it on the counter and transfer to the next. The ramekin, which is porcelain, is very smooth. And if you don't put the grease and then the sugar, it will have nothing to hold. It needs a little, like little steps. The image I have in my mind is climbing rocks, except that I never climbed rocks in my life and I don't intend to. But if you try to do it on a marble surface, you wouldn't be able to hoist yourself up.
Ron, we got another guest that just came in from Muriel. Muriel says that the sugar is for crystallization, caramelization.
So that is true, and that's what I noticed in the finished product. Let me have another bite, and if you can see, there is a slight separation and a little bit of a crust on the sides. So it does, the butter and the sugar helped us to climb up, to crystallize, and not to get stuck. I'm sorry, I have to have another. And the cheese makes it less sweet, and I also added lemon juice, lemon zest, and a touch of salt. So it's not cloyingly sweet. I also thought about the possibility of sprinkling brown sugar, which could be interesting, but I have to experiment first because the molasses in the brown sugar may start melting and getting stuck. But if you want to try with brown sugar, let me know if it works. Let's move on. So I have the ramekins ready. For this recipe, you need 6, but I wanted to make extra. And then I measure my ingredients. I have a 1/3 cup of sugar, a little vanilla, a little salt. Now let me bring my mixing bowls. One will be for the egg whites, and one will be for the egg yolks. And I'm going to use a hand mixer, just because a large mixer is faster, but it makes a lot of noise. And I can't show you what's going on with the bowl.
Ron, somebody wants to know, Jeffrey actually wants to know, if you don't have ramekins, what size dish would you use to make this recipe for 6 people?
So I measured, I put water in my ramekins and I wrote down how much it's inside. But you can just make the whole recipe in a larger dish. So here's the way to do it. You have to be sort of a scientist. Fill a glass of water with the amount I gave per ramekin, times 6, and then measure. Phil, you explain. You're the
I'm the tech. Okay. So as a professional chef, I like to think, personally, I would take the ingredients list. I would take a 4x6 dish, maybe?
Size of a ramekin, and I know the recipe will make 6 ramekins. So if you have a bigger dish, like a ceramic dish, you can just measure the inside of it with an amount of water that would be equivalent. But why don't, these are not
stealing that trick.
These a few dollars each, and they're a wonderful gift. And why don't you get yourself a dozen for special occasions? And also very good for baking, because sometimes I measure sugar and flour and salt in them, and I use that, you know, salt and pepper to sprinkle on top of and herbs. So, and they're so beautiful, and I love red, but they come in all colors. So we need to use 3 eggs. And in order not to repeat the same big mistake that I made years ago when I started, I'm going to break 1 egg at a time into an absolutely clean dish. But I forgot to show you one thing. This I learned by reading Julia Child. I already used the lemon I had here, and I didn't want to put my mask and gloves and go back to the store. So I'm going to use white vinegar. You can use cider vinegar. It's okay. But the system is to remove, with a pinch of salt and vinegar, all traces of fat from the mixing bowl for the egg whites. So I have a little vinegar or lemon juice that will add a little tanginess and the salt, and just rub the inside of the bowl. It doesn't have to be dry, on the contrary. And the acidity will help the egg whites to whip better and will remove any traces of oil. I'm sorry.
Ron, are you using unsalted butter or salted butter for the to grease the ramekins?
Unsalted. In cooking, I always use unsalted because I can measure it. And if you use salted, then you have to remove salt from the recipe. So all baking should be done with unsalted. Good questions today.
Keep those questions coming. Anything you want to know from Ron about this recipe, anything else? He's here, he's at your disposal, he's in his kitchen. Fire those questions away.
So I have a clean bowl next to me and a single small, and the yolk will go to one bowl and the egg white is absolutely pure and it goes to the whipping bowl. Now I'm saving the shells next to me just in case, because sometimes when you break an egg, it's not exactly in the middle and you need a better shell to do the separation.
Ron, is it necessary to have the salt and vinegar in the bowl in order to whip the egg whites?
No, it's an option, but it's highly recommended. You can use lemon juice. It's just to make sure, and again, I learned it from Julia Child, to make sure that there will not be a speck of oil from the fat, from the yolk, and also the little acidity helps the egg whites whip better. And also the salt breaks the protein. And then the recipe calls for only 2 yolks and 3 whites. So I'm going to have an additional yolk, which I'm going to save. So here's a question to you. What are we going to do with the extra yolk?
Anybody know? Now's your chance. Ron wants to know, what do you do with that additional egg yolk?
Glaze the top.
Good answer, but no, I'm sorry. No glazing necessary. I said mine for the weekend and I made the challah because the challah is rich with extra egg yolks. Also, you can sprinkle a little sugar in it and freeze it well. So there should be no waste. So now I'm ready to start whipping, and it will take a while.
We got a couple of questions here, Ron, so it's perfect.
I'm listening.
So someone would like to know, the sugar you used, was it icing sugar or white sugar for the ramekin?
Oh, that is a very good question. I suggest to give a prize to the person who asked that. So powdered sugar I applied in the very top as a dusting. But powdered sugar has already been pulverized to a powder and it will never whip. So we need crystallized sugar. The finer, the better. In the United States, you can get different degrees for baking, and the crystals are very small, but definitely not powdered.
Ron, so when you keep that egg yolk on the side to use for another dish, how long can an egg yolk last on the side?
Oh, I think covered with plastic wrap, it can last in the refrigerator for a few days. But I learned that you can freeze it in a small container as long as you mix it with a little bit of sugar. But because they're all at home, there's no need to keep it for longer. You can add it to an omelette. You can add it to a kugel, to anything you do, even a recipe for bread. You can substitute it, it will just give richness. So as you can see, the egg whites are being whipped. It will take a while in the small mixer. Now that they are whipped, I need to start adding the sugar. So I measured third cup, which is about 5 tablespoons. And I'm going to add half of it. If you are worried about adding too little or too much, just measure 3 tablespoons of sugar for the whites and 2 tablespoons of sugar and a little bit for the yolk. I add the granulated sugar little by little. By the way, talk about little dishes. This I got in a dollar store. Of course, it's my favorite color, red. And it's flexible. It's designed for making eggs in the microwave. Except that I never tried, because why would I want eggs in the microwave? I like the color and I like that it's flexible, so I can measure ingredients and pour them slowly into.
Ron, we're finally getting some personal questions here. Somebody wants to know, what's your favorite dish?
I'll have to think about it. So you can see the beaters are starting to leave marks, but now we are in the soft peak stage. What does it mean dish? Like main course, entree, or dessert?
All we have right now is your favorite dish.
Dish?
If you had to order one thing on a menu, bake yourself one thing, what would it be?
It will be a cake, of course.
Main course, your favorite main course. Now we're getting specific.
Let me think about it.
Okay, we're gonna circle back to Ron's favorite main course. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat.
You know, for me, it's the way to my heart is through desserts. So I don't care too much about the main course. If you ask me about desserts, that's a whole different thing. So I want to show you the difference how the mixer beaters are leaving trails. And the tips are slightly flexible, but in a minute or so, they're going to become stiff, satiny peaks, like peaks on top of a mountain.
Got another great question from Robin. Robin wants to know, does the bowl or the beaters have to be chilled to better whip the eggs?
Wow, these are really professional questions. I'm going to answer it in a moment because it's a little noisy. So my egg whites are ready, and the left marks, and if I turn it upside down, they're not going to come out of the bowl. I'm going to make the experiment. Are you ready, guys? I do it only for you. See, nothing.
If you try it at home and it doesn't work, you can't blame Ron.
So now I have the egg whites, and they're going to go on the side, and I'm going to start the same thing. I don't need to clean the mixer beaters because I'm adding fat-free to fat-rich. I'm going to start mixing the yolks. So here's the trick. Measuring eggs is easier when they're cold. Whipping eggs is easier when they're room temperature. So measure everything while it's still cold, and then give it for a few minutes to come to room temperature.
Here's an interesting one, Ron. Does the altitude,
When we make large amount of egg whites, we measure them cold, but then sometimes we do a water bath and heat the stainless steel mixer bowl so they'll be slightly warm.
Ron, does altitude affect the amount of ingredients one would put into a souffle? So if you're above sea level or below sea level, would that affect?
Okay, this is a chance to show how little I know, actually. I want to talk to you about the egg yolks. They start very deep yolk, very deep orangey yellow, because I use organic eggs. But they will start to become lemony yellow and very pale. Now, I don't know enough about altitude, but my first cooking book that I purchased in Canada was The Joy of Cooking. And they explain really well. I add sugar gradually. That when you bake in high altitude, you need to change the amount of leavening. but I have to admit, I don't know whether you add more or less. So where do you have the question of high altitude in Canada?
You know, we got Marilyn who's asking this question. Marilyn, you want to communicate with Ron?
Well, I think Calgary is a different altitude, like Calgary in Western Canada. And I think it's the leavening agent. I don't know if that's whether you're supposed to use more flour or less flour. Or,
So I'll tell you what, invite me to join you in Calgary,
well,
and I will research, and I'll come prepared, and we'll experiment together.
well, I'll let my daughters know then.
Okay.
Thank you, Marilyn.
I always wanted to visit. Meanwhile, the egg yolks are not going to rise as much, but they're becoming lighter in color. I can feel with the beater that the sugar, the granulated sugar has melted. It's not grainy anymore. And there's a test that in France they call, you need to create a ribbon. So let's see what the ribbon is. The ribbon is when you pull the beaters across, they create a ribbon that slowly disappears. So we're not there yet. I'll show you.
We got another question unrelated to this dish. Why do some people say meringues come out better when it's not too hot out? So if you're making a meringue, why does it come out better if it's not too hot out?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe somebody does.
Does anybody have the answer for that question?
People also say that egg whites whip much better in a copper pot, in a copper. But who has copper? And to keep copper shiny, so I use stainless steel or glass.
By the way, the main course question has now been changed. Now we want to know, what is your favorite dessert?
I will answer that, but you'll have to be patient. Okay, let's try to see the ribbon action. So I'm creating ribbons on the surface and they disappear. It's a little hard to see, but trust me, it's there. You'll see streaks, maybe a minute more.
Oh, somebody's chimed in on the meringue question. They say humidity affects it and causes them to weep.
Probably, yeah. All right. I have the egg whites ready, and now is the time to add a teaspoon of vanilla, if you like. And I ran out of lemons, and I could not run back to the store before the demonstration. But I love lemon peel together with vanilla. So I would use a little zester. And if I had the lemon, instead of the vinegar, I would use it in the bowl to clean. But it's absolutely fine. And then I want to talk to you about the cheese. This is what I found out in my local store. It's called Farmer's Cheese. It's not bad, but it's not as smooth as the Israeli fromage blanc. It's a little grainy, not as grainy as cottage or ricotta. And it comes in packages of 200 and a little bit grams. I'm sorry, the packages are 213 grams, and I think we need 100 grams for the recipe. So I went a little generous and I just divided it into two. So the vanilla and the cheese are in the egg yolk. So these are all the rich ingredients, the one with the fat. And if you use Farmer's cheese, the mixture will never be totally smooth, but it's okay, the little bits will disappear.
Ron, if somebody's using a stand mixer, not a handheld, do they need to stop and scrape down the sides?
Yes, so, but what I do is I use the beater. Show you. For my test before, I used my KitchenAid mixer and the large bowl, and I used the big whip, and I just scraped it with a beater. I didn't need the spatula until this point, where I'm going to combine where's my assistant when I need them? I'm going to combine the meringue, which is still stable for a few minutes, with the egg yolks. So if I put them all together at the same time, they'll simply deflate. So the trick is to add maybe a third or a quarter of the egg, beautiful egg whites into the yolks and smoosh it around. This will deflate the egg whites. Now you see that I'm scraping the sides of the bowl. So I'm not worried about too many dishes and if things are not that neat until this moment. So by deflating the egg whites into the yolks, the whole mixture is lighter and it will receive the rest. Now it's your choice. You can add the yolks to the meringue or meringue into yolks. I prefer now to scrape the bowl with my spatula. Notice that it's red, of course. So whatever your favorite color is, I suggest start collecting. Because once people find out your favorite color, they have a great way to give you gifts. So when people come to visit, they don't have to ask or buy anything expensive. They just look for red items. And it's a great way to allow people to gift you. Isn't it? Am I not generous?
Great tip.
Hint, hint. Now I'm folding. So,
Can we ask questions?
say again?
You can type in all the questions into the chat, and we're going to be asking Ron throughout the event.
So I'm scraping the side of the bowl with a flexible spatula and then bringing the matter on top. So it's very gentle. We don't want to mush anything. We just encapsulate the foam into the yolks. So without, I'll show you, it's like this. Very gentle, very lovingly. So because there are many, many small air bubbles, they're going to be contained and puff up in the oven. And the mixture does not have to be absolutely help me out with the word here. It doesn't have to be perfectly
Blended?
Yes. All right, very exciting. Now I have my ramekins.
Ron, if you make this part of the recipe, is there a certain amount of time before it deflates if you don't add it into the rest of the recipe and put it to bake right away? Or can you make this portion and put it aside?
Unfortunately, I tried, and that's the whole thing about soufflé. So in a restaurant, they would time and watch how people are eating, and they would start the soufflé about 20 minutes before people finish the main course. And then the moment it's ready, they're going to come up to the table. So I was able to make 6 times I made 6 out of the initial recipe, and now I'm not getting the same volume. And I wonder if something in the cheese deflated it. I would like you to try it at home and let me know. Or maybe I just get more and more gregarious and I like to fill the dishes a little bit. The bottom and just below the top, and then they'll puff up. So here's my baking dish. This is the roasting pan, and I'm going to put let me show you the one that was pre-baked before. You see how it deflated, but when I filled it up, it was to this height, then it rose up, and then it deflated. So, because I'm gregarious, instead of doing 6, I made 4. And we see how high they'll go. That will be my dessert. And a little warm or hot water from the kettle. And now I'm going to disappear for a moment, bend over the oven to put it in for 20 minutes, 20 to 25. I have my timer.
We have a question about the folding. Carol always thought that when you fold, you have to add a bit to the white, then fold and add the rest. Is that true?
Well, I did that, but the opposite. I took a quarter of the whites and added them to diffuse the yellow. If you put a little bit of the yellow into the whites, you'll already deflate them. Let me just rinse my hands.
While you're rinsing, we have a couple of questions about how deep is the water / how much water did you add in there?
You're a tough crowd. I didn't think. So if the ramekin is about 5 centimeters, I would put 1.5 centimeters, about a third. After this demonstration, I'm going to go back to the big, thick volume I have of Julia Child and read what she says. But those things are so changeable. That's really not the most important thing. The idea of the bain marie or the bain Miriam is to reduce the heat of the oven. When you bake bread or cake, you want intense heat to get everything up. With the bain marie, which you do flans, soufflés, you want to make sure that the heat is very even. And the water gets warm and then warm the sides as opposed to a blast of heat.
Ron, we got some more great questions coming in. Does the quantity of cheese vary depending on the type of cheese?
Yes, and I only tried the farmer's cheese. But when I did, this is something that we are limited in this pandemic. I tried one brand, I believe on Friday, and I got certain results. And the brand that I use today gave me different results. So it's a little bit disconcerting. But you know, we're all sort of family and we understand. And hopefully you'll do it for your family. And the taste is delicious. But honestly, soufflé is the most ambitious, the simplest ingredients, but the most ambitious undertaking. I should have done a cheesecake that you make in advance, you put in the refrigerator and everybody's happy. But no, I had to be dramatic. I had to be Israeli.
You reach for the stars and they're loving it. That's why the questions are blowing up right now. They're loving this. Robin would like to know, if you have convection oven, do you still need to do the water bath?
I believe so. Convection oven also vary. There are different of them. So it's best to try and let me know. I know that I used to work in a bakery that we failed doing cheesecakes because the fans of the convection created too much turbulence on the surface of the cheese cake. So we learned actually to prop the door a little bit so the fan will not kick in. So who knows how it will affect the soufflé. I wonder if there's an option to turn off the convection to be safe.
Anybody?
Yes, there is.
There is an option, good.
Yeah, you don't have to use a convection. I won't use it then.
Yeah, but the newer I read about manufacturing. Now there's so many advancements. You can have convection, microwave, browning elements, but figuring out how it all works, you need a degree in engineering. So there is a certain, I actually learned to buy ovens and refrigerators from the bakery that don't have computerized control, but have mechanical controls. Because the first thing, any supplier will tell me, the first thing that breaks is the computer touch board, especially when you use it a lot. So we still have manual levers.
Ron, if I'm having friends over, I'm having family over, when I'm allowed to have them over, I want to make this. If I prep all the ingredients, follow all the procedures, but leave them in their ramekins on my counter, go hang out with everybody, come back, then put in the oven. Would that work?
You can separate the eggs and the sugar and the cheese, have everything lined up. And the preparation time is really 10 minutes, the whipping time. I was talking, but if you have the egg whites waiting and the egg yolks and the cheese, the ramekins are already lined, oven is on, even the water bath can be on. Then you just whip it up and you're ready to go. So you need to take a break from the table. But you know, if you have a friend or family member who wants to help, my first job in the kitchen was whipping egg whites and whipped cream. And for a child, it's such an exciting thing to do. So why not assign roles? It could be a whole gathering of making the soufflés. And if you have a glass front oven, you can see them rise. I have a traditional oven. I also have a traditional, I researched before this segment, the building I live in was built in 1926, before the stock market crash, the big crash of 28 or 29. So it was sort of luxury, and they built separate small kitchens with galley. So I have a front and a back, north and south. I like it, it's very convenient. But what's fashionable now are those island kitchens that you can gather around. But for me, especially as a single person, it's so convenient to be in the kitchen. I'll show you. And I have 2 rows. So I have this side, and I have this side. And I have everything I need within reach. So if I were designing a kitchen, if I want to entertain a lot, I will build an island kitchen that people can gather around. But for daily work, this is perfect. It's not very good for TV broadcasting, though.
Ron, we're coming from our homes to your home. This is intimate, one-on-one time with you. This is the only time we're all going to get to be in your kitchen.
You never know, I do parties here.
I told you, as soon as this is over, the border opens, I'm coming to New York.
All right, but you will visit our shop, which is in the heart of the garment district. And actually, my shop is not on the ground level. It's on the 13th floor, the bar mitzvah floor of a commercial building, which still has, hopefully it will still retain, a lot of manufacturing, dresses and leather goods, zippers, buttons. So the neighborhood is filled for over 100 years. People have been sewing garments. That's called the garment district. It's really fascinating. And we took over a floor that used to be a shoe factory. There's another shoe factory on the 2nd floor. So it's exciting. And actually, on the 2nd floor, they also have a small synagogue. And it's not the only one, even though they're disappearing, because most of the workers in the garment district were Eastern European Jews. They built them synagogues so they could do morning and evening prayers.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a whole, there was a PBS documentary. That's how I learned about the district before I moved in, called Shmate. Shmate is a rag in Yiddish. And turn out that 95% of what we used to wear in North America would come from this area on New York City Midtown. But now you know how much? Only 5%. All the fashion designers are in this area, Donna Karan and Calvin Klein and Vera Wang and Ralph Lauren. So they do the prototypes and then they send them overseas.
Ron, Diane wants to know the name of your shop because as soon as this is all over, she may want to come out to New York City.
Who's asking?
Diane.
Are you planning a wedding, Diane?
Diane, now's your chance. Come on into the conversation. Where is Diane? Here we go. Diane, can you hear me? Diane, you don't have to type, you can talk. You're unmuted.
So I'm asking
No weddings, but I love New York. I just haven't been able to travel in a while.
Great. So the reason is we did not build a retail store is because our business is custom-made cakes for special occasions. So in a typical day, I will meet few families and clients, and we will, for hours, we'll design the cakes, we'll have a tasting. So we're not open for the public. Otherwise, we'll never be able to do the custom work. So people arrive to us by appointment. But the other ways you can visit our shop online through our website, which is, don't bother spelling Ron, Ben, -Israel. Just type weddingcakes.com. And my own students, we also teach at the space. So let's say if you wanted just to come by, we have a whole class that may run for 3 days. So it's really more like a catering commercial kitchen. But my own students told me about Instagram, which I love. So I've been doing it now for a few years. And every morning I wake up and I put pictures of new cakes on Instagram, and it's been tremendous. And that's how I advertise new styles and promote a new style in our classes and special events.
Ron, somebody actually just asked the cheese that you used for the souffle, should it be fresh out of the fridge or can it be room temperature?
I took it out about an hour before to become softer, but it's a little grainy, which is disappointing for me. It's not as smooth as I wanted. And I think that deflated. So my favorite will be the Israeli cheese that is very silky and has between 3 to 7% butter fat, which is considered low fat. Exactly what's called in Europe fromage blanc. And I think in Montreal there are a few stores, right, Galit, that you can
Yes. Yeah. You can get them at IGA. You can get them at all over.
So much better than cream. I mean, cream cheese with lox, schmear on a Montreal style bagel, I would love to have some now. But in the cream cheese, I find to be too heavy.
Do you know the name of the brand, the brand name of the Israeli cheese you would use?
A well-known one is called Sky, S-K-Y. And I'm loyal to Tnuva, which was founded even before the state of Israel. And they have 0%, 1%, 3%, 5%, 7%, and all that. So I would use between 3 and 7. Tnuva is well known.
IGA will have the Tnuva. I don't think they have the Sky, but they definitely have the Tnuva.
Yeah. The Sky is a little bit more fermented, so it has a deeper flavor. Some butters that we get, the French style butter, you can taste more of a deep flavor, just like organic eggs could taste a little deeper.
So,
Flavor
since you
the
mentioned,
souffle? Can you make them chocolate? Can you make them can you flavor it, or it has to be pure?
The answer is yes, but I'll have to experiment. So I would love to hear from your viewers. You definitely can add some cocoa powder to the egg yolks, increase the sugar a little bit, maybe even melt a little bit of chocolate. I'll have to research it. You know, I'm very careful about sharing recipes because they have to be tested a few times. And if, you know, I already changed a little bit because I couldn't find the original cheese, and the whole recipe changed. So I'm very careful. I know it's all possible, but when I contribute something that stays online or in a book, it has to be tested again.
Tried and true.
Yeah, we don't recommend to take medications unless they've been proven or things like that.
Ron, we're getting to that time of the night, but since you mentioned it, a lot of people want to know what's the name of your Instagram page so they can start following you.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we made it simple. Instead of Ron Ben -Israel, it's RBI Cakes. For Ron Ben Israel, RBI Cakes. And if you go to weddingcakes.com, it will lead you to there. You know, this is not fake humility, it's just reality. When I started, my friends gave me weddingcakes.com and I said, but my name should be on it. And they said, nobody will be able to spell Ben Israel. They often spell it IRSEAL and so forth.
So Ron, we are coming to that time of the night. Oh, again, RBI Cakes, Instagram.
Yes.
Follow, like.
If you like, you don't have to like.
Ron?
I'm already following.
Let me just tell you that I started something new a month ago because I had it after 2 weeks at home. It's called Cake Talk with Ron and Friends. So every Wednesday at 3 p.m., I have a cake alcoholic friend come for 30 to 40 minutes. We host it from our respective living rooms and we chat. We bake a little cake. We have tea or coffee, and we talk about everything to do with cake, of course, the pandemic, the business, how to learn, how to teach. So on the coming Wednesday, I'm going to have my first international guest, who is Chris Murphy from London, very talented young man. Then we're going to go to Savannah, Georgia. Then Buddy Valastro, who is a good friend, Buddy, Cake Boss Buddy. He kept harassing me and saying, when are you asking me to come? So he's going to come the week after. So hopefully we'll all be back to work and normal, and I'll continue broadcasting from the kitchen.
Ooh.
Better
That's a
lighting.
date.
We'll see. So really, thank you for joining. Thank you for all the great questions. It does me a world of good to have that. If things don't work out, don't despair, because I just, if something doesn't work, it will get better the next time. It's life.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have to tell you, the taste of the cheese soufflé was superb.
Yeah.
So even if they deflate a little bit, it's really a baked custard.
Ron, before we say thank yous and good nights, for those who joined in a little late, is it possible to show them that final product you were snacking on before?
Yes, absolutely. It deflated a little bit. So this is already the powdered sugar. You see it fell below the edge, but it was supposed to be up. And I'll show you the inside. So it's brown and puffed on the outside, but the inside, it's really like a warm cheesecake. Hold on.
Yeah.
And it releases beautifully.
Wow.
Looks delicious.
I wish you could join me.
Yes.
Try it with chocolate, put different things in it. Let's see what happens.
Ron, you're always incredible. You've been great to us. It's the second time you've joined us. We cannot thank you enough for doing this for us. Karen, Galit, if you have any final words for Ron?
Well, guys, maybe you can figure out why we eat dairy in Shavuot.
I meant to do it, but maybe someone who's watching is able to tell us. I think it was something about like Eretz Chalav Udvash, so land of milk and honey. And so Shavuot is why we eat dairy.
For a few days to let go of eating meat and to be lighter and pure.
Ah,
Ooh,
thank you.
I like that.
We learned so much with you.
Oh, I'm the one who learns a lot. All right, so time to clean up. Thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you,
Stay
Ron.
safe, stay healthy. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Ben Israel.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks,
Stay
Maria.
there,
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for
Bye,
joining
thank you.
us.
so much. That was really lovely.
Bye. Thank you.
And Chag Shavuot Sameach, everyone. Thank you for
Bye,
joining.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.